IVM. Hey folks, we're Team Splainer. Welcome to an all-new episode of Press Decode, a weekly podcast where we take Splainer's mission to declutter the news one step further. Check out our newsletter for more stories and follow us at SplainerIn to keep up with all the fun things that we plan for our Splainer fam. So sit back, relax, and don't let the news give you the blues. I'm Prafula Grace, your host for the day, and both Sara and Vagda are with me on this episode. As always, we have 3 segments for you. In our big story, we're talking about the many troubles of fintech company BharatPe and its infamous co-founder Ashneer Grover. In our food for thought, we're taking a look at Chinese censorship of media and drawing parallels to India. And then in our final segment, we will be roasting and toasting our fave and least fave items. So on to our big story. First, what is BharatPe exactly? Founded in 2018, it is a digital payment platform that helps small to medium scale merchants. So why did it explode? What BharatPe did differently was setting up QR codes that could be used with any payment platform, unlike Paytm and PhonePe. It also allowed merchants and shop owners to receive money by allowing direct transfers to their bank accounts without a fee, which had been the norm at the time. It also has a bit of a Cinderella story. The original founders, Shashwat Nakrani and Bhavik Koladia, struggled to find investors. That is until they hooked up with Ashneer Grover. Grover, who you may know as a judge on Shark Tank, was an investment banker with Kotak Mahindra Bank and was working as CFO of Grofers before he jumped onto the BharatPe bandwagon. He soon became a co-founder and the face of the company and changed the trajectory of the company massively in a matter of months. In 2021, the company had 7 million merchants registered in 130 Indian cities and had distributed almost 300 million to its merchant partners. In the meantime, the company quickly became an investor's dream. In its latest fundraising round in August 2021, BharatPe raised a whopping $370 million, bringing its total valuation $2.85 billion, which in turn granted it unicorn status. All of this sounds great, right? Not really. In January this year, a leaked audio clip of a phone call between Grover and a Kotak Bank employee went viral. Grover and his wife, Madhuri, had apparently been assured funds of 250 crores each in order to buy Nykaa shares. When this fell through, Grover hurled abuses at the employee. And when I say abuses, think Delhi. And even issued weird threats of getting him killed in an encounter. So this clip kicked up a real shitstorm around the company, and seedier details began emerging. So apparently Grover's behavior is a well-kept secret in business circles. From what I've heard from Sara, he is brash and loud on Shark Tank and unsurprisingly much, much worse off-screen. Reports soon emerged of Grover screaming at the CEO of Sequoia India, which is BharatPe's leading investor. And despite all of this, Grover was kept around because he brought in the big monies. In the midst of all this controversy, it was revealed that former founder Bhavik Koladia had been convicted in the US for identity theft and credit card fraud. Former because Koladia was relegated to product head by Grover soon after he came on board. Now, we don't know if the investors, including Grover, knew about this or even cared to begin with, but it did reveal a bunch of skeleton in the BharatPe closet, ranging from bad behavior to even worse governance and terrible business practices.
Chalo, so if you've seen Shark Tank India, which shamefully my darling co-hosts have not, both of them, you'd know Ashneer.
I'm very proud of it.
Please. If nothing, the memes make it worth it.
Memes are anyway, I'm on board. I'm like totally informed about the memes.
Look at Vagda trying to be all Gen Z. So cute. Anyway, you'd know Ashneer has made a lot of hue and cry about multiple businesses not being sustainable on the show. So he's had issues with some people saying you have too much family interference. Sometimes he doesn't like the product itself. And let's just say nitpicking is a skill he's a master of. So needless to say, pre the BharatPe debacle, my grumpy ass loved him. But one shit hit the roof with BharatPe since the beginning of the year with that absolutely horrifying leaked audio clip, allegedly between Grover and a Kotak Bank employee. I've been super intrigued by him as an entrepreneur. The word cracks me up ever since Shark Tank has come up. Anyone who watches it will know why. So, needless to say, I was hooked onto this masala style reporting about him demanding crazy payouts. I mean, he's demanded a 4,000 crore rupees payout to leave the company, and he wants the CEO to quit and whatnot. So, I dug deeper and was kind of surprised to find out that BharatPe is pretty much plagued by everything that could go wrong with a startup. Like Prafulla pointed out, the Kotak incident wasn't his first big meltdown. In August 2020, he used very similar language in a nasty, nasty argument with a Sequoia India executive. And yet, the fund continued to invest in multiple rounds since then. At least Kotak decided to go the lawsuit way. But BharatPe's dazzling fundraising success meant that all investors have until now just chosen to turn a blind eye towards the shitstorm brewing in their backyard, until obviously right now where they're realizing it's more of a liability. And it doesn't help that BharatPe is run simply as a one-man show where, I quote, aggression and foul language are more norm than exception. To make matters worse, the audio clip also brought into the limelight Grover's wife, Madhuri Jain Grover, a former fashion designer who controlled all the company's accounts and expenses. To add to the family dhanda accusation, Madhuri's brother-in-law Deepak Gupta took care of administrative duties. According to an ex-employee, between the three of them, there was no visibility on how the company conducted business. So yeah, pretty much they ran their own show as a family business, which, as I have understood, is something that startups usually try to steer clear of. I mean, it's the antithesis, so to say, of this papa ka business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just that they're in positions of power, not that that's okay, but there are also clear examples of them abusing the power as well. From diverting payments to non-existing vendors to creating shell companies to take fees for headhunting while not using any headhunters and just using company networks to hire. They've reportedly shortchanged the company time and again. A former executive told the Ken at one point, merchants were given BharatPe branded cricket bats and balls. This was procured at rupees 300, but the company was billed at rupees 900, a whopping 3 times in excess. This is just one example.
But this is very, very common an example when you're running a business. I mean, I've seen plenty of such models when, I was doing my other loyally gigs.
Loyally gigs, of course.
Okay, so to continue the saga of Doglapan, let's talk about BharatPe's own business model, just as he disses other people's ideas.
Nice.
So before UPI and QR codes became a thing, the most important and universal method of payment was via card. But the point of sale machines, or POS machines issued by card companies, charged a certain percentage of every transaction as processing fee, which was collected from the merchants. So with BharatPe's new QR code business that enabled instant transfer of money, charging no transaction fee whatsoever, it quickly and very obviously became the most popular form of payment method, with your local kirana shops hosting these QR codes all over their walls and their tables and stuff. And it shows, as most of BharatPe's merchants are unorganized mom and pop stores, which are now present in over 200 cities. But then how does BharatPe make money, right? This is going to be a long explanation, so please bear with me. In 2020, BharatPe ventured into the POS machine market. Again, within 6 months, it made a big dent in the market with 100,000 machines compared to the total number of machines in the country at that time, which was about 4.5 million. How? Same thing. No transaction charge. So where is the money-making bit again? Here is the catch. Most POS companies charge about 1 to 2% as processing fee on every transaction, with a payment processing duration of T+0, which means that the payment reaches the merchant's bank account that very day or the next day, which is T+1. BharatPe devised its own solution. It will not charge you anything as processing fee, but your money won't get to your bank account for 15 days, far longer than card companies. BharatPe then uses this money for 15 days for its lending business. In what seems like an order to cull this exact business, the RBI mandated that payment aggregators must transfer the funds to the merchant within a day or max by the next day from when they receive the funds. So then what did BharatPe do to get around this? It now takes explicit consent from its merchants to hold that amount for 15 days, promising up to 12% return on that money. And this is when BharatPe doesn't have a license to run a lending business at all. Sounds very shady, right?
I'm fascinated that he's pulled this off.
Shady, thy name is BharatPe.
But here's how they do it. Where do they get the borrowers from?
Hmm.
Formal lending business in India has been traditionally carried out by banks or NBFCs, which are non-banking finance companies. And in the informal sector, it's done by money lenders. Now, in the fast emerging fintech sector, peer-to-peer lending platforms have emerged, and they are regulated by the RBI. BharatPe partners with some of these P2P lending platforms like Liquiloans and Lend & Club, where they basically share data equivalent to their mailing lists. Lender merchants on these platforms get access to borrower merchants on BharatPe and vice versa. So for BharatPe, the money comes from charging borrower merchants an interest rate as high as 24%, offering about 12% to the lender merchant. And after deducting the P2P platform's share, BharatPe makes off with 9 to 10% return. And this structure accounts for 50% of their lending business and appears very much in violation of RBI's P2P lending rules, which mandate that a lending business has to spell out who it is lending to, which is not done by BharatPe. And it's supposed to have a proper bad loan reporting mechanism, which currently is happening only from the P2P lending platforms records. Nothing is coming on record for BharatPe. So it's basically in the lending business without following any of the rules of lending.
It's surprising that they got away with this for so long, no?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's shady business all across the board. Matlab, if you're being sneaky, choose a lane, either business strategy or business practices. You can't have this weird Rohit Shetty style, one leg in both boats, and it's still all going. Not even surprised it came to bite them.
And on that note, we come to the end of our first segment. We will be right back after a short break. You are listening to Press Decode on the IVM Podcast Network.
Namaste, this is Cyrus Brocha. I am part of the government cancel culture program to remove rubbish off all the different streams available. So what we have is all the collected rubbish we put together on our show. It's called Cyrus Says. It's on IVM Podcast. You have to watch it and listen to it. It's on our app. It's on our website. It's on the YouTube channel. It's on Facebook. There are many different ways. Don't bother me and ask me how. You have to find out. We talk to different personalities. Many of them are known. Some are just people we meet downstairs and invite them up for chai. But the point is, it's fun and it's very therapeutic. So please join in and listen to Cyrus Says.
Hello and welcome back to Press Decode on the IVM Podcast Network. We're Team Splainer and make sure you follow us at SplainerIn on Instagram and Twitter to keep up with the Splainer fam. So, in addition to the Olympics, China has also been making headlines for outrage over its censorship. In its latest escapade, the Chinese government has revised the ending to the 1999 cult classic Fight Club. Yes, we are breaking rule number 1, don't talk about Fight Club. Spoiler alert here if you have somehow not watched or heard of a film that is older than Sarah.
Wow. That is something I didn't see coming, but it also lets me get away with saying, well, it's older than me. That's why I've not watched it.
You're welcome. Okay, but don't fret. The original ending was restored. Now, adapted from Chuck Palahniuk's novel of the same name, this is a satirical commentary on consumerism. And here's the TLDR. An unnamed protagonist is stuck in a boring routine and an unfulfilling job when he meets Tyler Durden. After the main character loses his material possessions in an explosion, he and Tyler form the imaginatively named Fight Club. Over the course of the film, we find out that Tyler is the protagonist's dissociated identity, and the film ends with the main character shooting himself in an attempt to stop Tyler's plan to blow everything up. He does apparently kill Tyler, but is unable to stop mass explosion. The movie has a cult following, and anecdotally, I can tell you that the fan base is made up almost entirely of film bros.
Yep.
Anyway, since it is so loved, the fact that China censored the anarchy in the end really upset a bunch of fans. And this is how it ended. It fades to black documentary style and tells you that Tyler Durden and the rest of Fight Club was arrested and that Tyler ends up in a mental hospital and is discharged years later. I mean, this is moral policing to another level. However, the funny bit is the author Palahniuk himself doesn't mind. In the novel, the bombs fail to detonate, and while Tyler shoots himself, he wakes up in a mental institution thinking he has died and gone to heaven. Sure, Tyler. Obviously, the ending was revised for greater visual impact in the movie, but Palahniuk says that, oh, he's used to these revisions. But this revision has given rise to a greater concern: China's need to control its image and the media that Chinese citizens consume. We know that the government has had tight reins on all media to avoid subversion of its authority, and its tactics include strict controls using monitoring systems, firewalls, shutting publications or websites, and jailing critics. And it is especially hard on video games and social media. There are Chinese equivalents of WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook, and the gay dating app Grindr was recently taken off the App Store. And the government also swiftly deletes anything that criticizes it on social media, like tennis star Peng Shui's accusations of sexual harassment by a government official, or even the whole controversy after Jack Ma's mysterious disappearance. But what drives the government to relentlessly censor the way it does, and why?
So I think we should look at the roots of censorship in China. Some researchers have gone far back into the Ming dynasty that ruled between 1370s and 1450s to trace the roots of social control. Then there's some writing that says that the root actually lies in the constitution and its 4 cardinal principles that were set out during Deng Xiaoping's time, that's late 1970s. The Chinese constitution explicitly bars publishing content that may lead to incitement to secession, sabotage of national solidarity, disclosure of state secrets, promotion of obscenity, superstition or violence, and harm to social morality and the excellent cultural tradition of the nation.
Of course.
Now, I don't know about you, but this sounds very similar to the restrictions under 19(2) of the Indian Constitution. It all depends on how far you go in thinking the content is offensive. In terms of the internet, though, in China, there is one additional factor, and that's secret document number 9. This secret circular of 2012 set out 7 ideological dangers that the Chinese government needs to keep at bay, especially on the internet and in academics. What are these 7 dangers? The promotion of Western constitutionalism, universal values, civil society, neoliberal economics, freedom of the press, historical nihilism, and the challenging of Chinese socialism. Coming back to films, Fight Club isn't the first foreign movie to be victim of censorship. There is a long list. And when I say long, I mean long, really long. And there are plenty of reasons for it, ranging from unflattering depiction of China, depiction of ghosts and supernatural elements, cannibalism, dystopian themes. I mean, really, that's ironic. And political reasons like not upsetting a religious community. But of course, homosexuality has been a long-standing reason for censorship as well. In 2018, Bohemian Rhapsody, the biopic on Queen's lead vocal Freddie Mercury, faced cuts relating to Mercury's sexuality. At this point, I don't think there are going to be any spoilers because everybody knows the story, and I'm just going to say what scene was cut out. There was a scene where Mercury tells his fiancée that he's gay and that his lover is introduced in the movie. So that was cut out. In 2017, that was pulled off from the Beijing International Film Festival. In terms of law in China, the country enacted film industry promotion law in 2017, which gives even broader powers to authorities than before in defining what is offensive and what needs to be censored. To give you more detail, this 2017 law does not allow the exhibition of a film that jeopardizes the country's unity, sovereignty, public order, social ethics, or disrupts social stability, propagates superstition, or defames cultural traditions. So basically, just as vague and broad as the Constitution. My last take here is just that Chinese lawmakers are in desperate need of help with drafting. I'm not going to offer my services though.
Yeah, I was just going to be like, this is such a lawyer joke. I'm like, at this point, you will only have to go explain the joke and do it for them.
No, not doing it.
Anyway, now as much as Chinese policies always tend to straight up stun me, fun fact or not, India too isn't far behind on the film censorship train.
Oh, ding, ding.
Oh, that's where I heard it.
And considering Prafulla and I are the resident grumps, let me remind you, we take our role very seriously. So in case you, unlike like Prafulla, weren't very sure where you've heard about it, let me remind you. You'll be fascinated to know that a recent report by a United States Federal Trading Agency said an increase in censorship-related policies and practices in India has affected American businesses across different media segments, including film, social media, and video streaming. So, woohoo! ऐसे कैसे Chinese overtake कर लेंगे? The report focuses mainly on India and China, in addition to 4 other markets that are understood to be key threats: Russia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Turkey. Great company to be in. So the Indian Commerce Ministry is yet to respond to this report, but the fact of the matter is that we do have some moderately concerning censorship practices in the country. And one of the points that the report makes is specifically to do with something called the Cinematographer Act, our own Desi style manual for censoring movies, but legally. The first rule of releasing a film in India, you don't talk about releasing a film in India. Kya pata kaun offend ho jaye. Okay, for anyone who hasn't yet figured, I have not watched Fight Club, but well, I am 22. I do consume a fair amount of pop culture. So this was my sorry attempt at making a Fight Club ref. Swiftly going right back to the Cinematographer Act, it basically governs the certification of films. It declares, very similar to Chinese laws, a film should not be certified for public exhibition if, in the opinion of the authority competent to grant the certificate, the film or any part of it is against the interests of the sovereignty and integrity of India, the security of the state, friendly relations with foreign states, public order, decency, or morality, or involves defamation or contempt of court, or is likely to incite the commission of any offense. Any offense.
Humbly offering my services, my drafting services to the
so very
China
made in
को क्यों
India.
करेंगे? India को करेंगे. इतना nationalism है.
Very nice, very nice.
I realized that this is literally the, hey, can I copy your homework? Sure, but change it up a little meme.
So yeah, a lot of things can fall under the shall not be certified category. Of course, defense to hamara national sport hai. But the problem now is, thanks to an April 2021 move, something called the FCAT, or the Film Certification Appellate Tribunal, was dissolved. Before this, the Supreme Court had ruled that once the FCAT had weighed in, the government did not have revisional powers to demand changes to a film. So what did the government do? Well, they abolished the FCAT itself. Ta-da!
Wow.
Problem solving koi is government se seekhe.
I'm getting very Article 370 flashback.
Yeah, a barrier in your path. Well, don't fret. Dissolve the barrier. And to make matters worse, the government plans to add a new clause to the Cinematographer Act. And here's how that is going to work. Say some group complains that a movie violates anything mentioned in that key clause, that is national security, public order, etc., etc. The government can choose to overturn the certification given by the CBFC, which is a certification board, and send a movie right back to the board for further review. Mercifully, this amendment has been on the back burner since July last year. But if you need some reason to fret, because I can't let you go away on a happy note, movies like Bandit Queen, Udta Punjab, Babu Moshai, Bandookbaz, Kalakandi, Rangila Raja would not have made it to your screens if not for the FCAT.
Wait, isn't it Kalakandi? It can't be milk cake, yeah.
Oopsie daisies. Hey, I'm South Indian, guys.
And on that note, we come to the end of this segment. We will be back after a short break. You are listening to Press Decode on the IVM Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Storytellers and Storytellers, Vineet talks to filmmaker and production designer Uzair Merchant. He shares how he's created the world's first ever NFT music video. On The Habit Coach, Ashton talks to Joe Town, Hollywood actor and coach of the performer's mindset. They decode various aspects of the high performer mindset and how to deal with mind blanking. On Press Decode, Sara Vagda and Prafulla discuss the controversy around Joe Rogan's Spotify podcast and Netflix India's growing woes. On The Longest Constitution, Priya discusses menstruation, maternity, and disability at the workplace. And on Ikaduka Economy, Abhinav and Dr. Junjunwala discuss the effects of rising inflation. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Also, please do tell a friend. It really does help us when you spread the word about our podcast. And I'd also like to ask you if you could rate or recommend wherever you listen to our podcast. And speaking of where you listen to this show, if you're on an Android phone, do check out our new Android app. We have a brand new app with a brand new listening experience. Definitely check it out. I think you will enjoy it. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Bank of Baroda and Kaun. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back to Press Decode on the IVM Podcast Network. It's time for our final segment this week, Roast or Toast. And since someone decided to ditch Team Grinch this week, I'm holding down fort. North Korea has been growing its nuclear and ballistic missile program, and which is not surprising, but there's more. Pyongyang's main source of revenue is cyber attacks on crypto exchanges. The country has extracted nearly 400 million worth of digital assets last year. And in 2019, these government-sanctioned crypto heists generated almost $2 billion for its WMDs. Yep. And I am nearly fully convinced that we are living in the Matrix. This is a big fat L for the crypto guys, but at what cost?
Sarah, be careful. You're our only crypto guy.
No, I tried and I failed massively, so I'm no more a crypto guy.
Are we sure that they're not the reason why you failed?
Anyway, I have a fave item, but it's worth it. Say hello to the world's most exciting new combat sport. Drum roll, please. The Pillow Fight Championships. It involves reality stars, MMA champs, vets, and housewives indulging in, I quote, hardcore swinging with specialized pillows. Yes, this exists and it looks like a ton of fun. So you have to understand that I've never as much understood the S of sports. And my singular sporting medal was in 6th grade when I got the silver in an inter-house badminton tournament. Surprised? Confused? Everyone was. Except the problem, or the good part for me, only 2 players had shown up. And I came second. So yeah, the PFC gives me renewed hope that I can have something to do with sports after all and maybe get that second medal in life.
My favorite item this week is from our Monday edition. Oh my God, I loved it. So every international airport has an airport code that is granted to it by the IATA, which is the International Air Transport Association. The 3 letters that sit on your boarding pass are basically what your airport code is. So Delhi is DEL, Jaipur is JAI, Bangalore is BLR, Goa is GOI, because Goa as in GOA was already taken by Genoa in Italy. So what's the airport code for Gaya? GAY. Gay. Now, there's nothing wrong with the code except that the parliamentary panel finds it offensive and inappropriate and embarrassing. And the ministry is helpless in trying to get it changed because the IATA won't change the code unless it has something to do with safety. Bliss, I think IATA is also enjoying it.
Excuse me, IATA? It's safety to Indian culture. And obviously, the gay propaganda boils down to Gaya Airport.
I'm just trying to tell everybody here that Sarah's being sarcastic.
It's not evident? Oh, good Lord.
In case it's not.
It is 100% sarcastic.
Okay, cool.
And that was our show this week. Thank you so much for joining us on Press Decode. You can catch us every Thursday on the IVM Podcast Network. And guys, please remember, don't let the news give you the blues.
सफर, रास्ते, मंजिल और मुकाम अक्सर ये हमसे कुछ कहना चाहते हैं, पर हम हैं कि अपनी रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में इन्हें सुनने से कतराते हैं। नमस्ते दोस्तों, मेरा नाम है केशव चतुर्वेदी और मैं आपको ले चलूंगा कुछ ऐसे सफर पर जहां आपको एक नया नजरिया मिलेगा सफर और मंजिलों को देखने का। आइए इन किस्से कहानियों में डूब जाएं, हर मंगलवार और शुक्रवार।
Have you ever wondered where the business world is headed? How the ways in which we create, market and sell to consumers will evolve? Or if we'll ever go back to wearing pants while working? For answers to all of this and more, tune into Advertising is Dead with me, BharatPe. Every Tuesday, as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders and change makers from across business, media, marketing and beyond. You can catch all episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcast website, app or wherever you get your podcast from.